Alright, number 10, we want to solve the rational inequality. And we have 5x is greater than 25 over x plus 4. And we want to first find out what makes this function 0, or critical values that we cannot use. So anytime you have this fraction, you're going to take the bottom and find out what makes it 0. You cannot use that, but that will be a critical value. So we'll say x plus 4, we'll just say cannot be 0. And if we subtract 4, we'll get x cannot be equal to negative 4. So this is one of our critical values. All right, and then we're going to solve this whole thing and see what makes it 0. Whenever you have a fraction, it's just easier to multiply both sides. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the denominator. So I'm going to do x plus 4 over here times the 5x. And then over here I would just have the 25. So it's like multiplying this and moving it over. I'm going to distribute. So it's going to give me 5x squared plus 20x. And then instead of greater than, I'm just going to write equal to, because I'm just solving it for 0. Equals 25. I'm going to subtract 25 and move it over. So I have 5x squared plus, there should be a 20x, and then minus 25 equals 0. Now, in factoring this, I want to factor out of 5, make these numbers smaller, so that will give me 5 times x squared, factor out of 5, that would be plus 4x minus 5 equals 0. Alright, and now I can factor this. Factors of 5 are just 1 and 5. If I subtract those, I will indeed get a 4. So I'm just bringing that 5 down, 2 sets of parentheses. And then we get x and a 1 and x and a 5. So this splitting up the x and then the numbers that we found. Going left to right, the first sign is positive. That's a bigger number. So x plus 5. And then the second sign is a minus, which tells us that they're different. So this has to be minus 1. Now we're going to take these two terms and set them equal to 0. And then x minus 1 equals 0, and x plus 5 equals 0. That will give us x equals 1, and this will give us x equals negative 5. Okay, so these are our 3 critical values. And from here, we want to, this is the way we want to look at this expression. I'm going to just move everything to the same side. I like everything being on the left. So if I were to rewrite this, that would give me 5x, and then subtract this whole thing will be minus 25 over x plus 4 greater than 0. So I'm just moving that over, have 0 here. So this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the numbers that make this whole thing greater than 0, or another way to say that is positive. Now, just to speed things up, I'm going to use the calculator. Alright, so I have a number line. This is going from negative infinity to positive infinity. I'm going to put these numbers on there. These are test points. So I'm going to put negative 5. I'm going to put negative 4. I'm going to put a little circle over negative 4 because I want to remind myself that we cannot use that. So if there had been like an equal to, like a bar, like if there had been like greater than or equal to, then I would put a bracket. But this is letting me know that even though if I had a bracket, I could not use that anyway. And then the number 1. And I'm going to pick numbers between these values, and I'm going to test them and see if I get a positive. Again, I'm looking for a positive. I want it to be greater than 0. So on the left, I can pick any number. Let's just say negative 7. In between 4 and negative 5, let's just say negative 4.5. And then between negative 4 and 0, I'm sorry, negative 4 and 1, I want to pick 0. That's the easiest number to use. And then 1 and infinity, let's just pick 5. It doesn't matter. Anything. I could have put 2. Now, usually what we do is we do this by hand. So the problem I wrote down, 5x minus 25 over x plus 4. I want that to be greater than 0. Normally we just plug in one of those numbers, see if we get a positive. If we do, then that's what we want, and if it's negative, that's not what we want. So let's actually just use a calculator and let it do it. What I would do, like I said, if I was doing this by hand, I would plug in these test values, there's 4 of them, into this expression one at a time and see if I get something greater than 0. But again, it will take time, so I'm just going to use a calculator. Y equal, I'm going to clear this out. I'm going to type in 5x minus, and then I'm going to do in parentheses 25 divided by, and then in parentheses x plus 4, and then I'm just going to graph it. That's going to be the easiest way. Graph it. So the graph really doesn't matter. I want to figure out these values. So in order to do that, I'm going to hit the trace button. And then once I do that, it will allow me to input these numbers. So I'm going to input negative 7 for x, and I'm going to hit enter and see what the y value is. Okay, this y value came out negative. And I'm looking for positive. So this interval, that means every number in this interval will be negative. I do not want that section. Now I'm going to type in negative 4.5. Negative 4.5. And that gives me a positive 27.5. So this interval comes out positive. So this is part of my solution from negative 4 to negative 5. Alright, now I'm going to type in a 0. And then that gives me a negative number. Again, I don't want negative, I want positive. So that is not part, so from negative 4 to 1 is not part of my solution. And I got one more number to try. So now I'm going to type in 5 and hit enter. And I get a positive 22, so that comes out good. That's part of what I want. Alright, so my solution set is negative 5 to negative 4, and then union 1 to infinity. These are the numbers that when I plug in come out positive. So just to recap, in order to be able to punch those numbers in, you have to hit trace. If you just hit graph and you start typing numbers, it'll just go back to the screen. Okay, so you got to hit the trace button. Another thing to be mindful of is that you want to make sure you make your window big enough. So right now, my window goes from negative 10 to positive 10. So even if I hit trace, if I hit like 11, for example, 11 is going to be off the screen, so it's going to tell me error. Okay, invalid domain. So if I were to go to window, let's quit first. I go to window, and then I change my X minimum. Let's just say I want to change it to negative 20 and positive 20. So now it will allow me to take inputs up to 20 now that I've made my window longer. So now if I hit trace and I hit 11 and then enter, now it'll show me that. So just be mindful of that. When you're plugging in numbers, if you pick something that's out of the window range, it won't calculate. So like right now, if I hit like 21, it'll tell me error again because it's too big. So just be mindful. You can only put in as wide as your window is. So this is our solution to this inequality. So negative 5 to negative 4. and then we're going to pull up keypad and the union symbol, and then +1 to infinity.